Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Classic X-Men number 21, cover dated May 1988. Now this is the back cover by John Bolton. I'm concerned in this video for the backup story, which is entitled First Love. So looking at this back cover, can you tell which X-Man the story is going to focus on? Well, it has got to be this guy here, yes. And who could it be? Well, because this issue reprints as the main story, Uncanny X-Men 115, which was set in the Savage Land, it's Colossus. But why is he in his flesh and blood form rather than his armored form when this Fall woman is being menaced by this giant purple Tyrannosaurus Rex? And notice it's a one-eyed Tyrannosaurus Rex as well. So great penciling on this particular back cover, but also the inking as well. With a brush by John Bolton. Love the rendering of the texture of the bark of this Savage Land tree, as well as the scaly skin of the dinosaur too. Let's open this one up to let's take a look at the front cover. So this is Arthur Adams' reimagined cover for Uncanny X-Men 115. You can see that he's put the focus on Kazar of the Savage Land and Zabu there, and then we've got a little inset panel with the X-Men of that particular era. It's really great work by Arthur Adams, inked by Terry Austin. Let's open it up to the inside cover where the credits are, and you can see there are little spot illustrations of Savage Land creatures here by Arthur Adams. So that is, whimsical stuff from Arthur Adams. And the creator credits for the backup story, First Love, Chris Claremont as ever, writer. The pencils and inks are by John Bolton, the letters by Tom Orzechowski, and the colours by Glynis Oliver. So let's get precisely to that backup story. And here we go. It opens with a large image of Peter Rasputin and the title there, First Love, and the narrative captions, Antarctica, 7th continent. Bottom of the world, coldest and most desolately remote place on Earth, except for this bit, primordial enclave, where time sort of stopped tens of millions of years ago. A prehistoric jungle where the dinosaurs still roam. It's called the Savage Land. So really interesting to see there Bolton's rendering of Colossus, the spotting of blacks as well, the shadow cast by his left thigh over his right thigh. I think that's really well done. And also you can even compare the way he builds male anatomy compared to John Byrne there, inked by Terry Austin, with Kazar on this side of the page. And you can see how Bolton's drawing of human anatomy is more naturalistic, moving more towards the realistic, even as Peter Rasputin has an ideal male body, muscled male body. So we get a little introduction to him as he shades his eyes from the light. Peter Nikolaevich Rasputin, otherwise known as Colossus of the X-Men, hates it. So he exclaims, "Bourgeois, mother's kitchen after a day of cooking was not so half as hot as this." So these character pieces go into the emotional life and perceptions of the X-Men in the middle of stories like Uncanny X-Men 115, and you get a greater sense for their perception, their experience of some of these fantastical places that they find themselves in, such as the Savage Land, and that's what we get on this page in particular, as Colossus thinks to himself, the clouds that hide this land from detection also mask the sun, but they prevent its heat from escaping, so the land becomes like a steam bath. So that's really interesting, giving us the experience of what it would be like to be in the Savage Land, how physically uncomfortable it would be. Back home, thinks Peter, even at the height of our Siberian summers, I never sweated as much as this. I'm soaked from head to toe. I really hate clammy humidity and that kind of experience, so I really feel for Peter in this regard. And he continues thinking, and the paper of my drawing tablet is so saturated the pencil cannot make a decent imprint. And he sighs to himself, all this greenery so unlike the Rodina, my motherland. It is winter there, snow covering the earth, the air blessedly cool. I wish I was. And then he has a vision, an hallucination almost, of his sister, and also Anya, the woman who he fell in love with back in issue number 5 of Classic X-Men, the backup story there. You'll find a review of that in the back catalogue on the channel. So he recognizes Illyana, but also Anya, and then he opens his eyes and he sees, no, it's the Fall People, women from the Fall People, not them at all. Only the heat and imagination playing, and my imagination playing tricks, making those Fall People seem like them. So he gets up from the rock that he's sitting on, and he thinks, Anya, it's been months since we parted, yet I still think of her, miss her. And that's who he had been drawing there on his sketch pad. She was so afraid when she saw me transform into Colossus. In that instant, I became a monster. And so she left him, and he was devastated, and he spent the whole night standing outside at the seaside. And in the morning, he crumpled up his drawings of her and left them there. But we can see that he's carried her memory in his mind and is able to draw her from memory. So he's still obsessed with her and still wounded over that rejection. But then it's a story after all, so there's going to be a complication in the plot, and that complication comes from this scream that's nicely rendered there by Tom Orzechowski. And Colossus moves quickly, jumping over that fallen tree. Really like that, like the work that Bolton has done on the back muscles there in particular. Colossus thinks the girls, and then he sees what's going on. They're being menaced by a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. So Colossus exclaims by the white wolf, and the girls here are trying to hide and also defend themselves with their axes from the Tyrannosaurus. That's a great panel there. Let's turn the page. So Colossus tries, of course, to transform, accesses mutant power to transform into living steel. For all that dinosaur size and strength, my armored form should, but he can't transform. Something's wrong. I cannot trigger the change. Probably the heat, he thinks, affecting my concentration. No time to worry about that now, as he lifts up a huge rock and throws it at the Tyrannosaurus Rex, hitting it in the snout. Must try to distract the creature, give the girls a chance to escape. Done it. So now the Tyrannosaurus slaps him with its tail right into the water there. So this is all really well done. The choreography of the action is perfect by Bolton. I like also, once again, as I did on the back cover, the rendering of the scaly hide of the reptilian Tyrannosaurus Rex. So Colossus emerges from the water. Should have anticipated, he thinks to himself. Move faster. Nothing seems broken. Thank goodness. Probably hurt like the devil tomorrow. Bruises all over. That girl, though, is she mad? Facing that creature in the open? Now, I just want to pause and comment on this particular panel, because you can see that Glynis Oliver has made a colouring choice there to colour Colossus in the foreground, all in yellow. And the idea has to be to focus our attention on the girl and the Tyrannosaurus Rex, who are coloured in the fashion that they should be. The girl has flesh tones there. So it's an interesting device that Glynis Oliver has used to direct our eye to the girl and the Tyrannosaurus. So Colossus uses these vines to climb this tree in order to get over the back of the Tyrannosaurus. He's doing a kind of a Tarzan act here, which reminds me that John Bolton's favoured genres of for his drawing are fantasy and horror. So obviously he's leaning into the fantasy dimension of things here in this particular issue and must be enjoying it immensely. And Colossus continues with his thoughts. Or is she simply doing what I tried? Risking herself to draw the dinosaur away from her friends. I must hurry, he thinks to himself. Ignore the aches, there is no pain. Help her, but he's too late. So the Tyrannosaurus has grabbed her in its maw, snapped her right around the belly. So that's going to be not survivable. And Colossus there, this is typical Tom Orzechowski lettering, with the smaller size type, oh no, oh no, oh no, and really kind of conveying the degree of the degree to which Colossus is distraught at being too late. And then he starts hacking away using her, it seems, Where's he gotten that axe from? He's picked it up from the ground. It's her axe, and he uses it to hack at the Tyrannosaurus's eye. That's another great panel there as she falls to the ground, and you can see she's badly wounded, fatally wounded as it turns out. And then a huge anchor image there of Colossus still hacking at the back of the head of the Tyrannosaurus with its jaws wide open. It's really, really well done. And again, you can see the way that Bolton is rendering the scales of the dinosaur as well there. Really, really well done. I like also the rendering of Peter's anatomy there. That's a difficult angle to draw and make it look well, but Bolton's doing it with ease almost, or it seems that way. And then Colossus grabs the vine again as the Tyrannosaurus runs enraged into the water. His heart is hammering, as much from fright as exertion, he thinks to himself. The creature's caught in the bog. Okay, so it's marshy bog. The mud's pulling him down. He won't be back. Good thing. I doubt I could have lasted much longer. The air is so humid. It's like being underwater. So then the women who've survived come to him and introduce themselves. So one of them is Nareel. Peter introduces himself in turn, and she continues and says, one of the Outlanders I know. And Colossus is concerned about her friends. So Fahi as well, this one, but Shakani, she's dead, of course. So the tribe, the Fall people, they have a ritual for when people die, and it looks like it involves cremation. Midnight, the twisting moment when day's end turns toward morning, symbolizing the casting off of Shakani's fleshly incarnation and the union of her spirit with the eternal, infinite cosmos. The X-Men watch, thinking of their own recent losses, friends they'll never see again. So that's a really great panel there by Bolton, including all the X-Men. We've got Peter, of course, back there, Logan, Storm, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and I think Banshee back there as well. Peter doesn't sleep well. So now it's night after the ritual, and we have in the narrative captions the explanation. The great predator Saurian, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, Nightcrawler tells him, stalks his dreams. It wears Shakani's face. He tries to fight, but his armored skin tears like flesh. He tries to run, only to become mired in bog. Fangs close on his face. He can't even scream. So he awakens from the nightmare, in part because of the nightmare, but also the arrival of the two women he saved, Nareel and Fahi. And Nareel asks, did we startle you, warrior? We didn't mean to. So Colossus is confused. What are they there for? There's a last ceremony, says Nareel. And Fahi continues, a memorial to Shakani we must perform. We would like you to share this special time with us, they say, as they get him up out of his bed. And so he leaves, and this is comic in terms of the way that things go in respect of what special time they want to spend with Peter. Would you like to join us, Wolverine? Asks Colossus. And Logan, who's much more worldly wise, replies comically, well, I'll be. Is this the PD Pureheart I've known and loved? So Colossus is confused. Much obliged, pal, but I think I'll pass. Sides, I wouldn't want to crimp your style. So Colossus is confused. What did he mean by that, he thinks to himself. And this is interesting because, Logan's a man of the world, but he has, what's it called again? Sewing skills, and he's patching up his costume there at night as well. So it's an interesting juxtaposition, of him sewing while being much more in the know about the ways of the world, and saying also something here along the lines, I wouldn't want to crimp your style if it turned out that they had a foursome or something like that. Anyway, let's get back into the story. Peter's all confused. He doesn't know what's going on and why are the girls giggling. Some of my home collective still follow religious ways, but they seem much more serious than this. And that's a reminder that Colossus, or Peter, having grown up in the atheist USSR, himself does not have any religion. But he continues, but they seem much more serious than this. Different lands, I suppose, different customs. So he sees the island and that they want him to go to, and he remembers that the island is by the bog where the dinosaur fell. So that's going to come into play on the next page. So Colossus is there asking them what to do. What does he have to do now that they're on the island? And they start to explain. Simply be with us, warrior. Be, you mean? And then he gets it. So he blushes, like he says he can't. This goes back to the reason that he couldn't transform into his organic steel form. But we'll see if that gets resolved. Why not, asks Nareel as she goes to kiss him. But what of your memorial? And she replies, what better way to honour a fallen friend than by hopefully creating a new life? So Colossus is honourable. He pulls back. He says, Nareel, this should not be with me, but with one of your own, a man who will care for you the rest of your days. And she replies, children are the charge of all the village. The entire tribe is our family. There is no shame in joining with an outlander, especially one of such nobility and courage, for his blood makes us stronger. So Colossus is backing away. He doesn't want to be part of this ritual. Your ways, they're not mine, he says. And then just like in a horror movie, the dinosaur is back, and we know it's him because his eye is out. His left eye is out. The thunder lizard, it didn't drown. So they're in trouble again. It's roaring there. Very good drawing by Bolton. So it lunges towards them, and Colossus pushes the girls away. Scatter, both of you, to the trees in the deep water. It's me he wants. So they say they won't leave him, but he takes charge. He says, girl, do as you're told. And then he's thinking, no rock, nothing to use as a weapon, save myself. So will he overcome his mental block on the transformation? Is it all about humidity? It is the nighttime now. Nareel is there worried for him. Peter, Lords of Fire, how can this be? He's changed. So he manages the transformation. For a moment, remembering yesterday when I couldn't, I was so afraid. So then he gets right into the jaws of the Tyrannosaurus and pushes them apart so much that they snap, and that kills the Tyrannosaurus. And Nareel sees him as a man of iron. So he jumps off. And that's an interesting one as well, because in the Savage Land, while they would have iron, or that obviously they shape into weapons, they don't have steel, and they don't have the technology to make steel. But anyway, Colossus jumps off the dinosaur, the back of the dinosaur. It's dead now, or almost dead. And he thinks to himself, I can hear the surprise and alarm in their voices. How long before that turns to terror? Because he's remembering back to the reaction of Anya to him in the backup story to issue 5 by Lennon. Would that I could put an end to such unreasoning fear as easily as I do this beast. So he starts bashing in the head of the Tyrannosaurus, really to make sure it's absolutely dead. And we get a classic Linus Oliver trope. I do point them out from time to time. We see it here too, the red background for moments of violence. And that's a really great image and drawing of him punching in the head of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Really, really well done. And then we come to the last page of this 12-page story. And this is how it wraps up. So are they afraid of him? No. He says, this is what I am, as much as when I was flesh and blood. I'm not as you or other humans. I am a mutant. And Nareel asks him, why is there sadness in your voice, warrior? Without your power, it is we who would lie slain here, not the thunder lizard. And he replies, I know. I was just thinking of someone I once cared for and how she fled when she saw me like this. I feared you might do the same. So Nareel says to him and to that, she was foolish, we are not, for we see nothing in you to fear, as would anyone with sense enough to follow the dictates of their heart. So she goes in for a kiss again this time, and he's there protesting as he did before. When the X-Men leave, I must go with them. He transforms back into his flesh and blood form. Then we must cherish the moments till then, says Nareel. You mean that? You truly care? Silly boy, she replies, let us show you. And Fahey continues, how truly much we do. So there you go. What happens next is a menage a trois for Petey Pureheart, as Logan called him. And suddenly he finds he's smiling with a wild, light-hearted joy he's never felt before, and knows that for the first time he's discovered love. And what's interesting is that Claremont would reveal in Uncanny X-Men issue 12, Uncanny X-Men Annual 12, the one that's also set in the Savage Land and drawn by Arthur Adams, and you'll find a review of that in the back catalogue on the channel, that this night there was a conception, that Nereel conceived a child by Peter, and she named him Peter. And in Uncanny X-Men Annual 12, Colossus is oblivious to the fact, doesn't twig to it at all. And then in 2005-2006, there was a limited series, Colossus Bloodlines, written by David Hine, that brought Peter, Colossus's child, back into a storyline that featured Mr. Sinister, and the boy died. So that's the kind of the arc of the results of this night of love for Peter, which is interesting to think of from the vantage point of 2025, how things would go in relation to all of this. Well, I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on the backup story to Classic X-Men number 21. That is First Love for Peter Rasputin, and the resolution of his trauma from being rejected by the Russian Anya back in the backup story to Classic X-Men number 5. And so this is Claremont revisiting the personal moment for Peter when I guess we'd say he loses his virginity, but also when he experiences an accepting love for the first time as a mutant, when these women witness him in his mutated form. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.